My name is Tandega Ndlovu. We all know that there are different problems at workplaces. Today, I want us to discuss the relationship between the employer and the employee. Section 185 stipulates that everyone has a right to be treated equally and equitably at work. This is done to ensure that everyone enjoys rights at work as enshrined in Section 23 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which stipulates that everyone has a right to be employed equitably, fairly, and in an appropriate manner. Therefore, the relationship between the employer, Section 185, stipulates or says that everyone has a right to be treated in a fair manner and in a fair and equitable manner. Therefore, the question remains, how can we say that somebody is being mistreated? What are bad habits that can occur, or what habits must you avoid at work so that you can explain or rule whether there's something not being conducted in a fair manner at work? You must look at subsection, which is about agencies, work-related agencies, or employer-related agencies. If there's anything which is beyond the explanation that's written down, or an explanation that's in Section 186, subsection 2, it will be difficult or odd if that's not the case. Now, what does this section or stipulation say? Sometimes I'll read and also explain at a subsection which I've just read. It starts off by any action which is seemed unworthy or a behavior that is not professional between an employer and an employee. You know that according to law, where they speak about actions, it's about our actions that we pre-take. Then it says, or any action, or by not doing something, which is something that you did not perform or do. Therefore, this is something that you have failed to do. Therefore, even if you haven't done so, even if it's because you failed to meet certain actions or targets, it will be actions that are not worthy or not or worthwhile worthy. And these actions which are unjustifiable, or the ignorance of certain duties that are supposed to be done by you, this must not interfere between your employer-employee relationship. Therefore, it is crucial. It must be the employed and the employee. You must be a worker at a particular company so that we're able to do an investigation as to see whether there are any actions which guarantee or which results in you being deemed as being unprofessional or not breaking work laws or labor laws. When we're speaking about the employer, we're speaking about the directors of the company or the heads of the company. Those can be people who are heads of an institution which represent the employer. This is not people who are on the same work level as you. It is not people who are beyond your level of work or who are beyond you scale-wise. Whatever actions which is deemed unnecessary or unprofessional or their negligence in any form or manner, or if they are not in a manner of or in a leadership position, they cannot stand on behalf of the employer. Therefore, there must be that relationship. You cannot speak about something that's happened in the past. There must be an ongoing relationship, a relationship between the employer and the employee. What are actions which are deemed unprofessional? You getting a promotion, or you being demoted, or you being trained or getting training, or being given a financial incentive. Now, let me explain in detail. Let's explain them consecutively or in sequence. What do they say about being promoted? Let's just say you are working for a certain company, like we've just explained. There must be a relationship between the employer and the employee. Therefore, or you haven't been promoted as yet, but you do have rare skills or needed skills, or you have knowledge, or you have qualifications which are relevant or which are deemed good for the particular employee. Those actions can be work-related actions without being fair or equitable. The objectives is if we can prove that, if there's tangible proof of that. The second one is being demoted, where you are demoted from your position unaccordingly. Even though that's the case, I must emphasize the fact that each individual case will be tackled accordingly. If you are demoted illegally so, or being demoted as a way of punishment, maybe you did something, maybe you were accused of something, and then maybe you were acquitted, and then maybe you were demoted from your position instead of being fired. That's different. It's not the same. But being demoted without any justification lawfully, that becomes an unprofessional way of working. The thirdly, or being reviewed after a short period of employment. We all know that in many situations or many occasions, being reviewed will be after a year or during the course of the year. Maybe in other situations, after 3 months, but if they continue extending those review periods, or if they fire you without any valid reason, or if there's nobody who comes back to you to give you feedback, and we are still reviewing, or whether we are still assessing whether you are suitable to be appointed permanently to this position, that can be a habit that is very unprofessional or an illegal way of operating. The other one is to be trained. It is expected that you get training from the position that you are being employed for. Even if you were you were trained before, and even if you qualify, this is called ongoing assessment or ongoing assessment which is done after a certain period of time. The employer must train you. This will make you this will make you improve your work. Remember, they cannot fire you and then say you do not perform if you are not doing the way that they expect you to without training, any form of training. They must ensure that they did try to support you via their actions before even firing you. What have they done so that they ensure that you improve or you raise the bar? Remember, when somebody says being fired at work or any work related or employee related matters, it is seemed as a life sentence or a death sentence. In other words, it is the last thing that you want to do or the last thing you want to occur to you. You don't just get fired. You don't just fire people willy-nilly. I'm not saying that there are no certain actions which results in a dismissal. There are certain actions which are completely unacceptable, which call or result in somebody being fired without any hesitation. I'm talking about offenses, minor offenses, where a person has been given an opportunity. When a person is being given, they say to, even though you're not performing, it's fine. We are going to try this. Let us advise you with regards to this. Let's give you training, and let us also give you an opportunity to improve. Therefore, being trained is compulsory. In other words, if you are not provided the training, if you are not given an opportunity such as that, while others were able to conduct all those activities, or others were given opportunity for training, you're not being given attention. That can be a very bad way of operating professionally, or an unprofessional way of operating. Another thing can be the reducing of benefits. If your employer decides to withdraw certain benefits which you were qualifying for previously, or rights that you are entitled to, then suddenly there's a withdrawal of those benefits, or you're not given those benefits at all, those benefits that you qualify for. Excuse me. According to law, this must supposed to be your package or your work package. In other words, this can lead to bad actions or habits from the employee's point of view. Another one is for you to be suspended without provision. This must be done legally. This must be done using the correct channels. There are certain ways or procedures which will suspend someone at work. You can't just go to a person today and then you call them to your office and then you tell them verbally that we are suspending you at work. There's a procedure to be followed. Those steps and conditions, those terms and conditions must be adhered to before somebody is suspended at work. We'll talk about it towards the end of this conversation. Being suspended or such a suspension of work, if it's a suspension based on certain actions, the reason why you are being dismissed at work or being suspended may be because they think that you are going to interfere, or you're going to interfere in the investigation. Therefore, they are removing you from the environment so that you do not jeopardize evidence. These are just examples which illustrates why they can suspend you at work. If this may be the reason, this must be done accordingly. It must be done according to labor laws. However, if you are being dismissed at work as punishment, or maybe you were taken to disciplinary action before, you had a case against you, and you are found to be guilty, then they suspend you at work as a way of a punishment or as a way of a punishment. In such a scenario, you are not compensated. However, if you are suspended at work because of reasons beyond your measure, therefore they must pay you. If that's not the case, it was not done accordingly. It was not done the way it was supposed to be done. Therefore, this may be an unprofessional way of operating, which is unfair and unscrupulous. Another one is to deny being taken back to your former position. Let's say they fired you, but maybe there was the negotiations between labor matters, and it was agreed that you must be reinstated. But your employer refuses to reinstate you, even though there's evidence that there was an agreement of such. This will be an unprofessional way of operating, which is unjustifiable. I would also like to talk about another very crucial issue. Let's just say you breached a certain law at work and then you were called to a disciplinary hearing so that you may face the music. I just once saw previous cases which were lost or which were suspended because the judge decided that it was not done accordingly. The investigation was not done accordingly. Imagine this scenario whether this happens to you. Imagine if this was happening to you. Imagine if this was happening to you. You find an investigator who doesn't do things accordingly, or you find an investigator who doesn't do things properly. They've decided that no, you are guilty. Only to find it's just a way of trying to influence the investigation. It's just a way of trying to influence this investigation, or the witness is not being honest. If that's not the case, it looks bad to the employer. And you know that they don't like such. And you know that they don't like you. Therefore, an investigation that's a bit shaky can mean that you can lose your job. You can lose your way of life, your bread and butter. You get a warning that